All right, here we go, guys. Welcome to the Fight Bananas podcast. We got Jonathan Stamey, Fight For It promoter, Fight For It 9, Saturday, November 23rd, Hickory, North Carolina. Jonathan, how you doing, my man?
Doing well. Thank you, sir, for having us.
Absolutely, brother. First and foremost, before we get into the origin of the company and promotion and talking about the roller coaster ride it is to be a promoter, let's talk about Saturday, November 23rd. Talk about the fights. I love how you have MMA, kickboxing, boxing, jiu-jitsu. You got it all in one night. It's an MMA dream. So let's talk about Saturday, November 23rd.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now we'll have the four major combat sports, which was our tagline, Fight For It 9. We'll start with the prelims at 5 p.m. with amateur boxing. We'll go on to kickboxing after that, and then followed up with the main portion of the card and mixed martial arts, obviously. We'll have about 13 amateur boxing matches, 8 kickboxing. We'll have one jiu-jitsu fight during intermission, and then we'll have about 12 MMA fights, including the 3 pros on the end.
Wow, that's a full night. That's whoever and when they purchase their tickets, they're gonna get every dollar worth. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So you said in the intermission, I talked to a couple people lately about how popular grappling shows and super fights are getting. All these huge joint, jiu-jitsu shows. The one we just broke it on fightbananas.com. There's a Quintet Ultra. It's going to be on UFC Fight Pass
Mm-hmm.
December 12th. Teams, Pride's going to be involved. UFC, WEC, like Hall of Famers, big names. Does that interest you? Would you like to do a couple more events, just straight grappling, or would you want to do just a couple each show to kind of keep the momentum going?
Well, actually, our promotion started with simply boxing. So in 2014, we started with an amateur boxing show, and then following that, which is my point coming up, is we did 3 grappling tournaments. So before we moved on to mixed martial arts and including MMA and kickboxing in the show, we started with boxing and then moved on to 3 jiu-jitsu tournaments, which we enjoyed immensely. We would like to actually go back to that. We've actually run our version of the quintet because I love the rules so much. We ran
awesome, right?
Yeah, we ran some team jiu-jitsu on the beginning of about 3 of our previous shows. So we like showcasing jiu-jitsu as a part of the 4 major combat sports all on the same night, so we can give the fans, just everything. But we do love jiu-jitsu, and we certainly want to run a grappling tournament or simply just the team jiu-jitsu in the future.
Yeah, and it's one thing I think it's really cool about it is we're going to have Jillian Roberts on the 100th Fight Bananas podcast, and she loves doing it. She likes to stay active. She trains all year round down there at American Top Team Coconut Creek, but you fight for the UFC maybe 2, 3, maybe
Right.
4 if you're really lucky. So every other weekend, if you can stay active and just keeping your mind right, keeping your body tight, and making sure, you're ready to go in there for a battle, she loves it. She wants to stay busy. And to me, that brings more, big names, right? Brings UFC fighter names to a show that, they can't fight for you in MMA because they're UFC signed fighters, but they can
Right.
grapple for you. So I think that's something that's good too. Also, we talked about, so if she gets on the card and that brings a lot of eyes, and then you got your main event, you got Chambers or you got Battle in one of the main events, it brings
Right.
more eyes to them and prolong the Fight For It, crowd.
Oh, sure. We'd love to get some higher profile fighters to come do jiu-jitsu for us. That would be fantastic. I really loved Sakuraba's quintet, and then I guess Uriah Favors the one that's putting on the current promotion on Fight Pass. Is that the one that you were talking about?
Yeah, it is. Sakuraba's involved as well. Dean Tool is matchmaking it. It's going to be a great night. It's in December 12th. There's just humongous names. Anthony Rumble's involved. Sean O'Malley's involved.
Wow.
era. Sakuraga's got the team pride. It's going to be insane. I love how
When,
it is.
when you do, yeah, when you do the team jiu-jitsu format, like honestly, I think it's the most exciting form of jiu-jitsu that you can put in front of the public. I think that's the reason why everybody likes it so much.
Right. So let's keep on talking about Saturday, November 23rd. You talked about boxing matches. You started boxing as an amateur. And what does boxing mean to you personally? And what does boxing mean to Fight For It?
I started boxing after I saw the Diego Corrales and Juan Jose Luis Castillo fight in, God, what was that? 2004 maybe? Or do you know what fight I'm talking about?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's in that range, that year range. I don't know. I can't pinpoint it, but
yeah, Diego Corrales gets knocked down twice in the 10th round and comes back to knock out Jose Luis Castillo. And after I saw that fight, I was like, man, I have to be a part of that. And that was right around the time that the Contender series was coming out, and so boxing was coming back on broadcast television. But anyways, I started then and just said I wanted to fight, and started immediately training. Found the gym, and then boxing changed my life. It sent me down this path where we are now, where we're implementing the promotion. Initially, I wanted to create the promotion so I could fight in it, but a little naive to think that you can start a combat sports promotion and do fight, combat sports promotion, run a gym. When we created that, took a long segue, and now 2 weeks from now I'll actually be taking my first fight back in 5 years, after spending 5 years trying to build this promotion to what it is today.
Absolutely. It's more than a full-time job. That's why Mark Cuban doesn't play for the Dallas Mavericks. He
Right.
and runs it and pays the guys.
Right.
It's a roller coaster, and I definitely want to divvy into that before we get into some of the matchups on Saturday, November 23rd. Real quick, also though, make sure you check out guys Fight For It on Instagram. Fight For It Company, that's the handle. Definitely give them a follow, show them a lot of love. Just being the promoter, just having the roller coasters of the stories, what happens, fights. You can set up a fight for weeks, for months, and then that Wednesday, someone's not making weight, someone sprained an ankle, someone's not feeling good, whatever the case may be. Stuff happens in the fight game. Can you just tell us about that roller coaster of being a promoter for Fight For It?
Honestly, it's nonstop, especially since we were doing 5 shows a year now. We set these guys that we try to set up the best matchups we can. There's always dropouts. I don't know that we've ever had a main event dropout, but we've had several dropouts where we need these guys who are actually going to sell a bunch of tickets, and it makes it a little rough when they fall out, and it can happen with injury or they weren't happy with the weight, or they couldn't cut weight. It's always like you said, a roller coaster ride leading up to an event.
One thing I definitely want to hit on is female MMA. Female MMA has been on fire. UFC, Bellator, PFL, all the way down to regional shows on UFC Fight Pass and below. Just MMA involved. Is that something that intrigued you at Fight For It? Is that something you're gonna want to get more into? They sell tickets. They put on great scraps. So that's one thing I've seen a ton of female amateur shows and MMA shows. Every fight is just amazing. They go in there, they go for it. It's top-notch entertainment for the crowd. So what do you think about MMA?
We would do an all-female card. They're so exciting. The problem, at least locally and regionally, is that there's not a ton of female fighters.
Okay.
And the ones that we do have, they all train together, so it's difficult to get them to fight one another, which we totally understand.
Right.
Nobody wants to fight teammates or friends or people, training partners. So if we could have a full female card, we would, like Invicta, we would run it. It's just it's so difficult to try to get female fights on the card. I don't think that we have one on this card. One boxing, but we would take as many as we could actually find.
Okay, that's good to hear. Before we talk about, okay, so Saturday, Hickory, North Carolina, November 23rd. If they can't be there live, and if you're in the North Carolina region, if you're anywhere in this coastal Carolina, make sure you got to get there. You got to get there live. It's going to be a great show, full night, worth every penny. Get there 4:45, open the doors, and you'll leave around midnight, maybe. Who knows? But if you live here in Florida, or if you're out there in Las Vegas and you're getting ready for UFC 245, how can they watch this event? Not being there live.
Yeah, we stream all of our shows live on our Facebook fan page. It's at Fight For It Company, same handle as the Instagram, so at Fight For It Company on Facebook. You can check out the stream from our previous show at Fight For It 8, which we hosted in our a local minor league baseball stadium, the Hickory Crawdads. And our media producer Jason McGinnis has steadily increased the quality of the stream, so much so that we worry a little bit about losing some local ticket sales. But I mean, the last broadcast was fantastic at Fight For It 8. So if you're in Florida or anywhere else in the U.S. or for the world that matter, please tune in to at Fight For It Company on Facebook.
Wow. We can't wait. We'll definitely be watching it here, November 23rd. Okay, let's get into some of the fights. Let's talk about the main event. Let's talk about the co-main event. Let's talk about a fight that you want to feature and kind of talk to the Fight Fanatics community and bring it out there. Let's talk some fighter names, and let's get into it.
Yeah, the two main event kickboxing matches are really exciting. That we have Roland Mizell versus Marquel Fullwood Jones. Marquel trains with us here at the gym, so he's a hometown fighter, and he's facing Roland Mizell out of Elevate. Is it Elevate? Elevate in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Roland had defeated another current gym member. His name's Deshaun Jeter to take the heavyweight title several months back. And Marquel is actually crossing over from MMA to take on this title shot. So, and they've been since the fight was announced, they've been jawing back and forth at each other on social media. So it always makes for a fun matchup.
We love it.
Yeah, please feel free to sell tickets. And then following that, we have I think the fight I'm most looking forward to is George Copa versus Josh Crouch. Josh Crouch trains here at the gym. He's 4-1, and he won our middleweight title at the Fight For It 8 show at the Crawdad Stadium against Phil Kratz. And George Copa is 8-1 and is the Lightning Strikes title holder, and he is really talented. We're excited to see both of those guys lace it up. It's going to be a fantastic main event for the kickboxing portion of the show. And then we have to finish the evening, we'll have our three pro fights. But before we get to that, we'll have our inaugural heavyweight championship for Fight For It, and we have Caleb Harris coming down from Virginia versus Dalton Taylor, who has fought for us before and won, and he has you guys should look into it. He has a very touching story, and maybe Jason had mentioned him for you to talk to and interview, but you should definitely talk to him. Okay. We're excited to have him as the inaugural for both of those gentlemen to fight for the inaugural heavyweight championship for Fight For It.
There's nothing like heavyweights. There's nothing like a heavyweight fight. that should be a great one. People should be really amped for that one.
So then we have our 3 pro fights, which everybody looks forward to. We'll have Jeremy Mitchell versus Dreon Martin. We'll also have Kenneth Crowder versus Kevin Schroeder. And then our main event, AJ Chambers versus Brian Battle. And Brian Battle is well known in the Southeast as he was the number 1 middleweight and the number 1 light heavyweight in the Southeast region, according to Tapology. And he's actually coming off of a submission loss, so we know that he's going to want to get that one back. We have AJ Chambers coming in from Florida, who's not Florida. He's coming in from Colorado, but he's originally from Salisbury, which is really close to us in Hickory, and he's a talented fighter as well. So, we have a great card, and we hope everybody will come out and watch. And if you can't come out to the show, then we can certainly watch it on the live stream on Facebook.
Very cool. And you can get tickets right at store.atlanticmma.com. Make sure you get the tickets. It's a couple weeks out. We're getting there. It's right before Thanksgiving. Maybe you can get it for someone for an early Christmas gift. We'll make it work for them. We'll kind of finish it up. We'll start wrapping it up. Kind of 1 or 2 more questions for you. For one is, so it seems like you're a boxer from heart and from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And seems like since the whole Floyd to Conor, Jorge Masvidal just got the greatest, win, BMF, The Rock, Dana White, MSG. And afterwards, he talked about fighting Canelo. It's just like this MMA to boxing crossover is something that could happen in 2019 going forward. Does that interest you? Do you like that? Or are you just, hey, everyone, that's amazing, but everyone should kind of stay in their lane?
Well, from an entertainment standpoint, it's great. I mean, when they announced Floyd versus Conor, it's a little bit of a sideshow, or a lot of a sideshow. And I was the first one to recognize that Conor had absolutely no shot. And Floyd was the consummate showman, and carried him for many rounds more than he probably should have. I mean, the guy didn't throw a punch, it didn't seem like, for the first 3 rounds. But I also was gladly spent $100 to watch it. So
you and I both.
Yeah. So I can't say that for entertainment value, I think it's fantastic. But to ask someone to come over from MMA, even at the highest level, and compete with someone at the highest level in boxing specifically is a little more. I imagine what you'll see is, if you see a few more of these, like a Jorge Masvidal coming over and facing Canelo, you'll see entertaining fights, and the boxing, the pugilist will always win.
Right. It's Russell Wilson is going to be the MVP in the NFL. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the world, but he cannot hit a 99 mile per hour slider from Jacob Young. No. It's maybe Russell Wilson can play minor league baseball, or maybe LeBron James can play, maybe he can box an amateur, but he can't fight Floyd Money Mayweather. And Russell Wilson can't hit a baseball. It's just, the sports are so the top of the top. It's just amazing. It's the less than 1%. You just can't do it. You can't do it. Fight for It 9, Saturday, November 23rd, Hickory, North Carolina. So excited. Fights, the prelims start at 5 o'clock. It's going to be a wonderful night of fights. I love asking this question, especially we're getting that time, Thanksgiving, we're getting around Christmas, getting around New Year's. If I would say summer of 2020, fight for it is?
Fight for it is hopefully we're gaining more and more traction. Hopefully we had a call from UFC Fight Pass. No, I think that's probably a little bit farther down in the future, but summer 2020, I hope we're gaining a lot more traction than we are currently, and we turn from a local show into a regional show and into a national show, at least on our way there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we appreciate your time. We're so excited. November 23rd is going down. Fight for it at 9. Jonathan, thank you so much, brother. We'll talk to you very soon. Continue success. We'll talk to you maybe fight week.
Thank you, sir.
All right, brother. Have a good one.
You too.